Hey, welcome to another podcast interview. And as you know, with my channel, I use Autogen a lot to create my AI agents. And finally, I have the creator of Autogen with me. So I was wondering if you would like to kind of introduce yourself, give a little bit of history of maybe when you started coding, and then how you got into the AI space.
Hi, Tanner. Nice to meet you. Hi, everyone. My name is Chi. I've been doing research for computer science and AI and machine learning for the past like 15 years. I started coding at a very early age. Can you guess when?
Let's see. So
Yeah.
very early,
Yeah,
10?
yeah, it's earlier than that, 7.
Earlier than that. Wow, 7.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. It's quite incidental, coincidental at my age. Computer is a very new thing to everyone around me. We don't know what it is, and my father insisted me to take one class in the school, and I was very reluctant. I was scared about it, but
Yeah.
after one class, my mind was totally blown and changed. What
Mm,
happened in the class is um, the we everyone had access to Apple, a very early Apple
mhm.
model. There's only one monitor and one keyboard. There's nothing
Okay.
else. And
Oh,
when the machine starts, we see black screen and the prompt to enter basic program. At that time, we
ah,
didn't know what it is. We don't know what basic is. We don't know what the keyboard is. The teacher was just writing code on the board. At that time,
oh.
we also didn't know that was code. We were just looking at something weird, and literally just look up the keys one by one, and copy the content to the
Okay.
computer. The computer can do nothing but take basic program and run it. That's the only functionality of the computer. And after maybe 10 or more wipe out of the screen and rewriting, we
Oh,
finally
wow.
finished the program. And when we hit the enter button, a snake game popped up on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So for a 7-year-old, that's
How'd that
like,
that felt
yeah,
good?
that's like magic, right? So
Yeah.
there's nothing, I can, not no other word I can describe it. And we were
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
shocked. Everyone's shocked. But that was my starter, and I got deeply attracted. And since then, I started learning coding, doing coding competition, and
Okay.
study computer science in college, and did my PhD eventually. Um, yeah, so that's how I got
That
started in coding.
this
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay. Well,
yeah,
you said that you've been in the AI space for about 15 years now. I know that you're not with Microsoft. We'll get to that in a little bit with right now.
yeah.
But did you start AI before you got started with Microsoft, or was it when you got to
Yeah.
Microsoft that you started?
Yes. The PhD started before that. I
Okay.
studied some text mining, data mining, also generative modeling. But
Mm,
the generative model was very different from the today's modern generative AI techniques. At that
yeah.
time, we were using Bayesian networks to do text analysis, do topic modeling, try to categorize documents and analyze categories of documents and so on. But
Okay.
it was indeed a generative model, and the dream is also to make computer be able to understand natural language. So it's the same time ago, but the technology has evolved so fast that the new generative AI technology is so exciting. But I would say my journey with AI is even earlier than that.
Mm,
Like I mentioned, my very first experience with computer is game. So I have been deeply interested in like gaming, building agents that can play games. For example, in
okay.
college, I did some competition. It's an annual competition named Agent competition. It's really called Agent.
Okay.
It's for
Ah,
uh, like people creating agents for playing certain games. Every year they will change the game, change the rules, and we had to use a lot
okay.
of like rule-based techniques to deal with all the different situations and try to win the game over other players. Um, so yeah, so I would say that the AI has been part of my life for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it was. it was kind of there, just maybe not called AI yet,
Yeah.
but it was
Okay.
like a precursor to what you were gonna do.
Yeah.
So those agents were kind of introduction to the well, what we now use and call with AI agents.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I know for me personally, at the end of last year,
Yeah.
actually I saw a YouTube video from a guy named AI Jason, which I know a lot of people probably know,
Yeah.
and he talked about chat dev. So that's my first time getting into it. And then I saw Autogen at that time. I didn't really know what it was, but I saw it was back to my Microsoft. And I didn't really like chat dev too much, but it was a good introduction. And then as I started going to, what I noticed was that there was a project before called Flamel. So I didn't know if you could maybe talk about that a little bit, and then the transition from Flamel into Autogen.
Yeah. Flamel is a very interesting project. It's also an open source project. Actually, Autogen was initially developed inside Flamel.
Mm,
So it started about 5 years ago. When I had an intern, Qingyun Wu. We started working on a automated machine learning and hyperparameter tuning project during her internship. Um,
okay.
At that time, I had already had a lot of experience in applying machine learning techniques in database systems to optimize system performance.
Okay.
And I observed a lot of constraints in the actual system about like latency trade-off together with model quality.
Mm,
So people cannot afford to use very large model, even though they can be accurate.
yeah.
And yeah, so I understand these practical, after I understand the practical constraints, we started working on the special AutoML project that designed for finding both efficient models, both efficient and accurate machine learning models for different applications.
Mm,
So it's more
okay.
general than the system applications because we think this is a general requirement for every machine learning domain. And we also target for very efficient search algorithm to solve that problem.
Mm,
So Flamel was created after we wrote a research paper, and we open sourced that and have been growing the community over all the years. So got quite good popularity both inside and outside Microsoft, and widely used by data scientists and machine learning
mm,
engineers, and also a lot of products. Um,
and awesome.
then, yeah, we have been doing a lot of research also to further improve the technique and improve the library over the years until
Okay.
we saw the GPT chat and ChatGPT, that a
Mm,
new generation of machine learning models that's so powerful and interesting. So my very first attempt is to try to use the models for AutoML applications, and soon after, the opposite, try to apply AutoML techniques to improve the model's inference performance, to see whether we can make the application stronger quality, whether we can have better inference quality while lower the cost for a
mm,
specific application like coding or solving math problems or just generating text. And it turned out to have a lot of potential and make me think about, after the model is trained, there are still many decisions to make in particular applications to maximize their utility and make them cost efficient and so on. And how shall we deal with that problem? That was the beginning of the Autogen.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, because that's
Mhm.
that was kind of a problem for me. Like, and I know a lot of other people, they don't, you want to use like a local model. So maybe something like Ollama, and maybe you can only use like a 2 billion parameter model, or maybe a seven, if, if you really kind of push your computer. So I definitely see the practical use of trying to make it cost effective, but still be efficient. That's kind of the fight that everybody's having with these models still. Awesome. So so Autogen, was that kind of like a side project that you still started like by yourself? Like just one night you were just kind of like, oh, this is the problem that you just mentioned. You just started coding and creating the framework for it, or
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you get greenlit by Microsoft, or how? Yeah, just kind of curious how that started.
Yeah, so as a researcher at Microsoft Research, we have a lot of freedom to pursue our own research agenda. our own idea. So a lot of exploration can be made just by one researcher or two. So I really appreciate that freedom. For Autogen, the very first, like the beginning attempt was to optimize the inference parameters. And I was doing that mainly by myself, and I had some collaborator from Stevens Institute who has been working on some natural language processing feature in the Flamel library. Her name is Susan Liu. We collaborated on that, and after that work, I started to think about. By the way, that's the first feature in the Autogen library, and it's because and it has a very nice connection of Flamel, so it's just a package as a sub-package within the Flamel library. But I was not satisfied by that because from that study I realized there are more. There's a very large space of potential optimization, and we're just scratching the surface. Where we were primarily just thinking about using multiple inference of the models, get multiple responses, and do some post-processing to select the best answer. That's one step ahead of just using model inference once, but it's not the end of it. If you think about it, that opens up a big room, big like space of possibilities. You can use the model once, do some processing, apply some tools, and then apply the inference again, right? So there's endless of possibilities about how these models can be used in a bigger system. So I really want to get into that, and then I think about how we can give developers this very easy tool to reason about all this very large design space of big system that can build around these language models or other AI models and maximize their utility. It's also like building an operating system that centered around these powerful models, but give them all the necessary tools surrounding them. And so what should be the language to describe that space? And eventually, after that, we can then think about further automation, just like applying AutoML to the machine learning space to automate the entire selection. But first of all, we need to have this standardized interface. Just like in machine learning, we have the scikit-learn, which is a very popular machine learning interface, and then we have PyTorch and so on. Once we have that standard framework, we can apply optimization on top of it. But at that time, we don't even have that standard framework. So I was thinking, why don't I just build one? So that's
So you made a couple of points there. It's so when ChatGPT first came out, it was like, oh, I can just talk to this. It gives a response back, just like a one-way chat, and that's amazing just in itself, right? But then when you said that you can have multiple inference, and then that's actually is more powerful, because then you can have on the outside something looking at those responses and be like, choose the best one based on this prompt or this criteria that I need, and then it does that for you, right? That is more powerful than just like a one shot, right, or zero shot. And I think you guys were, any framework, anytime we're doing this, right, the first time it's different, right? So everybody might have a little bit of trouble no matter what you're doing. But I think creating the framework really helped out, right? Being able to choose the options and making it less code to get something working, right? Because for the general person, you want to get something working and do it better, but coding everything out yourself obviously can be a task. So having a framework is amazing. And I think you guys were the first ones. And if you want to kind of get into a little bit more, is to have a group chat, right? So it's not even just like this sequential order of agents getting the response, generating something else for the next one. It was, they can all kind of talk in the circle until they reach some conclusion. And I think that is in itself an amazing feature to have, is like have this group chat conversation.
Yeah. So I want to finish the answer to your question about how the Autogen started. I thought I mentioned that when I decided to build this framework, I started talking to Qingyun Wu, who's as I mentioned, was a starter of the Flamel project together with me. She has been working together with me on this project over all the years. So I once I had this Even though I was thinking about I should build a framework, I wasn't sure what is the right abstraction to build it. I spent a few months thinking about it until in April when GPT-4 was released last year. I suddenly realized agent can be the right notion and the right concept. And as soon as I realized that, I had no hesitation. I know that's the right concept. I remember it was during a spring break trip in Vancouver.
Oh,
I
wow.
was having a vacation, but suddenly this idea appeared in one night. I got so excited, and I just called Chin and say, let us do this. Yeah.
Okay.
After some call, I convinced her to join me and together started building this framework, because that's the agentic framework in Autogen. That's the
I see.
real start of it. Yeah.
That was the turning point right there. You had that
Yeah.
idea, and
Yeah.
then you turned it into an agentic framework.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that idea came to you. Now you created that. Because I think AI agents are, I mean, they have to be the way of the future for handling almost anything. I use them just for like even just gathering news, right? It's hard to do that yourself, right? You're busy. I know that you're busy. So if you want to get updates on anything, you just run these agents together and then
Yeah.
have it summarized. Do whatever you want, right? AI agents are the way to go.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, what do you feel like people? I feel like people are either they're really for AI agents, they're all in on this idea, or they're kind of just, nah, I don't know. It seems like, I can hard code all this if I want to, which, I mean, not really. But there's this idea that, do I need an agent to do this stuff? Like, what are your thoughts on this on that?
Yeah. I think this maybe kind of depends very much about the personal experience.
Hmm.
Yes, I remember when I started building the agentic framework in Autogen, there were a lot of doubts at that around that time about whether this is a viable notion, and whether it's the right time. Because I think the concept is not new, right? So people have been thinking about this direction for the last 20 or 30 years. People have a dream to, because I think that's why people are building the artificial intelligence. They wanted to eventually be able to create agents with such high level of intelligence. But you never know like when's the right time to really say now we're ready. So I think so it's made
Yeah.
and whether people I think everyone will have a judgment about their internal experience. But for me, there were a lot of like personal experience that made me believe that. I think one of that is the chat interface of ChatGPT, the conversational capability. Um, as soon as I see that capability, I relate that to some earlier experience in college when I was in a seminar for quantum physics and quantum computing.
Wow. Okay.
A professor at that time, Professor Duan, gave me a lesson that he told me that conversation or dialogue is a provable way to uh, make learning and prove theorems. It's a very effective and efficient way to lead to new
Ah,
discovery. There's some theoretical result about it. Even though I forgot the exact context about that statement, but it has a deep impression. I had to take away that this conversation is something that's not non-trivial, and we need to pay a lot of attention.
I see.
And so when I see the ChatGPT experience, and I see why. So that's basically why I think it's got so popular and pushes the technology to a whole new different level. Even though it looks like a small step forward from the like text generation to many people. It's not small to me at all. It's so huge. And at that's the time I think yes, we should be now to pursue that. We should not wait anymore.
Yeah.
I think that maybe of something very unique, and but I totally understand that different people may have different perspectives. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this whole new revolution, right? So I'm
Yeah.
personally happy to be living in this era of the whole timeline of, whatever, because this is huge. I believe that everybody, if you can, as much as you can be, even if you're not a developer, I just started using Cursor AI, right? You can just ask it to develop it for you. I mean, nothing's perfect yet, but you can have concepts now without even needing to learn to code, all thanks to AI, right? And even whenever I show, like I've shown some of my family who know nothing about really computers, turning it on is about the best thing. If
Yeah.
I just show them a simple conversation and this is what it can do, it's just the most amazing thing. But it can be a little scary because it's so powerful. It's just, so again, I'd also see the other side too, like, whoa, this is a lot. I think the other correlation would be when computers first came out, and instead of having to manually put down like columns and rows, like with a spreadsheet. When spreadsheets came out, you can just put it on the computer and save into a database. It's like, whoa, wait a second, I don't need pen and paper anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this revolution is absolutely amazing. Like everybody should be a part of it. So I know I found out recently, not to completely jump the conversation yet, but that you're not a part of Microsoft anymore on LinkedIn. I saw that. So I guess how are you still involved a lot with Autogen? I mean, I still see you in the Discord,
Yeah.
talking, but not to get into anything personal, but were the reasons, I guess, for leaving, and did Autogen have any part of that reason, I guess?
Yeah.
Whatever you can discuss.
Yeah, sure. The Autogen project has grown in a very fast speed since beginning, and it's much faster than I anticipated. Partially because I worked on Flamel before, and for Flamel the community growth was, um, I mean, in a steady rate, but it's much less overwhelming compared to Autogen. I got like talked to every single user when I grow the community. But Autogen, it was impossible. It was exploding. I do appreciate the high level of interest, but it's also it's so demanding and overwhelming for me. And it's so typically, I mean, for the open source project, eventually we want a big success. We will want wide adoption for the whole industry. So it really took longer to reach that state point, but for Autogen, it's much faster. So I think we're at the time that we really need to open up and have more broad participation, and you use a more open governance model to make sure the project grow more healthily. So doing it outside had given me the chance. For example, Qingyun recently created a new GitHub organization called Autogen-AI, and the Autogen development there is using a open governance model. So everyone has a chance to participate and eventually influence the direction of the new organization and the projects. And it's based on contributions. That's supposed to be a better approach for the project development, and if we want to reach to a bigger success of it. And so I'm still working. So I think that's a good opportunity. I am now still working on the open source project in that new organization, and many other contributors have been following too. Yeah. So moving forward, we want to really adopt this contribution-based governance structure, and to make sure people get
Like a say or something in what's kind of going on, potentially, anyways.
As contributors, based on the contribution, they have a voice to influence the project, so that yeah. So
that's pretty powerful, really. I mean,
together. Yeah.
To do that, I mean, that's not something to just take lightly. I mean, if some people don't understand, that's not something to take lightly, right? That's I mean, that's amazing that you're opening it up to, even just if sometimes people don't necessarily want to say something, but just have the ability to say something or influence it. That means a lot, right? So that's a huge step, actually. And I do want to actually give some kudos to Autogen, the framework itself. I've dealt with a lot of those frameworks, CrewAI, LangChain. Actually, recently, just Llama Index, and some others. But I have to say that stability-wise, Autogen to me has been the most stable, right? I feel like the only time, and everybody when you break it down, everybody kind of has to follow OpenAI's,
Yeah.
kind of what they're doing. So unless OpenAI has something breaking, then generally, Autogen has been wonderful, right?
Yeah.
I think I just want to compliment the framework in general, that stability, and especially if you're going to go to, and I actually want to talk to you, the next question after that was going to be, how does it look for like production, right? Because stability is a big thing for production. So it's kind of what are your thoughts on the
Yeah.
future with Autogen about that?
Yeah, that's a very good observation. I appreciate you noticing that about the stability. I would again attribute this to the previous experience when building Flamel. Even at that time, we were very careful about maintaining the backward compatibility with every minor release until we reach the V1. But if you compare the V1 version versus even V0.3 or something, there's very little breaking changes, almost no breaking changes. But we still wait until a lot of different versions, V4, V0.4, 0.5, and so on, until we are very confident that we're ready for V1. So I'm very conservative when making break changes, but to achieve that, it requires some very careful design in the beginning to find the most essential concept that we think is the right concept, and let's fix that, and do not say just use a random concept and then later change it to another one. I did think very hard about it and be very kind of using the minimalist kind of design point of view. So if I don't think something is essential, I'd rather not add it to library early, but more like make it a possible extension and beta version. But the key notion, we keep it the same, and the key user interface, especially the user-facing API, we keep the same. So far, we have only made one breaking change from 0.1 to 0.2, and that's mainly because the OpenAI's library change from 0 to 1. But that change is still small to the users because we were making some changes underneath to deal with OpenAI library, and from user point of view, there's only some very small changes. I guess one bad news is even after V1, OpenAI package is still making breaking changes. So we had to deal with that also. But still, we try to make users not worry about that, and make changes with the library to the best degree we can. We can't do 100%. We can't avoid that 100% still. That and in terms of like production adoption, I think this is pretty helpful to give people confidence about using it. There's definitely a lot of other like deployment related considerations for making it even easier to deploy. So right now I've seen people building their own applications using different kind of front end frameworks, and there are different ways to deploy it. It's okay for now, partly because we have this minimalist design, and it doesn't prevent people to add it to their own applications in their own manner. And moving forward, I'd also like to provide some like extra like tools or interface that help them to deploy even more easily into some popular environments. That is something we're looking at to build. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think that it's people may not necessarily understand some of the things that you said, but being able to like future-proof a framework to not, because especially for personal projects, I can just go in and I'll just start coding, and then I'm like, oh, wait a second, I want to add this, or maybe I want to remove that. So you have to go back, modify code. It's not the best approach, but just for personal projects, right? But for something this big,
Yeah.
where the code base is just grown and grown and grown. If you don't have that kind of core, that minimalist framework, like idea for what you want to do in the future, like you talked about, which again I know is not easy. I'm sure it wasn't easy. But that's a wonderful job that you guys did. To be able to do that is amazing, because there are other frameworks that I'm not going to name, but there are just breaking changes all the time, right? Because you have so many dependencies on other things that are kind of out of your control. It's good it's I know the idea is that make it easy to bring in all these other integrations, but at the same time, it's much harder to maintain. And as far as what we're just talking about right now, being production ready, I personally don't really see that happening. Like, it's maybe great for personal, development, but anything beyond that, to maintain it, it's very difficult. At least that's how my
Yeah, you mentioned the group chat feature earlier. I'm not sure if you have a question around it, but I guess I went on to answer a previous question. So sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're fine. Okay. So I think, well, I'm not a developer of this, but as far as what I've done personally, I would say the group chats, and then along with the nested group chats, are some of the more powerful things that the Autogen framework offers, in my opinion, because like we're talking about, having a full conversation with these agents that can specialize in different things. I mean, and then before it sends off to another agent, I just think there's so many different applications that I can't even think of that could be done with that. So what made you, I guess, did the whole conversation topic that we talked about, when it kind of like, you had that past conversation with your professor, did that kind of, you come up with the group chat then, or was it at some point you're like, oh, we need to organize the conversation with these agents?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Let me talk about the full history about that. The very first effort when we try to build the agentic framework, at the beginning, we were trying to build a self-improving agent, which have a very little kind of knowledge or basic functionalities in the beginning. But we wanted to make the agent to be able to take new kind of lessons every day, and add to its library and upgrade its capability by itself. So that was the initial goal, and we're trying very, very hard to achieve that. And that requires at least like two agents. One is this assistant agent that can do the work by itself, and the other is the user proxy, which allows user to send messages, provide feedback, and teach the assistant. So that's a two-way conversation. And we were trying to see whether using this simple two-way conversation, we can achieve the goal. We saw some promise, but we also realized, this architecture, which is close to maybe the single agent architecture that many people were also building at around that time, because assistant agent is essentially what people are trying to build. The user proxy is just another agent that can help with human interaction, but it's the functionality of AI is primarily in the assistant agent, right? So we're indeed trying that route since the beginning, but we quickly realized that it's not that simple, and when we need the agent to be able to extend and perform multiple tasks, and for example have modules that can reflect on things, and or even do some planning and more advanced things, we can easily hit a wall of complexity, and we can still keep using this design, but it'd be very difficult to explore different ideas in a modular way. We probably need to rewrite the design many times before we can find the right thing. So that's the time we think, can we extend this two agent interaction to maybe other ways? So yeah, I think that was primarily the biggest kind of pivot or extension for this project. But it's tremendously difficult to change from 2 to 3. So even though it sounds like it's a small number change, 2 and 3,
Yeah.
but yeah, well, what's the big deal? But it's, if you think about it, when you have two agents, it's pretty simple because it's just one agent speak and the other agent respond. It's A, B, A, B, A, B. It's a pattern is very simple. There's only one choice. But when you have more than two, it becomes suddenly becomes like infinite number of choices. You can have A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. You can have A, B, A, B, C. You can have A, B, A, C, A, B, A, C. You can have, all these different possibilities, right?
Okay.
And how do they kind of do they share the same context, or do they share partial information, right? All these all the different possibilities. It's so complicated that it's almost impossible to enumerate all of them. So this is like the this is something I knew actually also earlier, that 2 and 3 has a big difference, but this is a very concrete scenario why that's the case. There's some interesting like math games, math theories also behind it, but that's a longer story. I'll not talk about that for now. But yeah, the short thing is 2 and 3 are fundamentally different,
Gotcha.
and not to mention more than 3. And okay, so then we explored several different like conversation patterns, but we realized there's still a relatively simple interface that we can leverage and use as the fundamental mechanism to easily enable all the different possibilities. We found that's basically the send, receive, and generate reply kind of interface for every agent, and you can define all different types of agents using that. Can handle models and human and other tools. But until then, there's no group chat still. Right? There's just some several different concrete design of chats. But the good news is that once we have that foundational layer of the basic interactions, we know that's sufficient to handle all the different cases. We now can ask applications builders to try out it and build all different conversation patterns using it. So we got several initial adopters. Some of them also earlier members in the Flamel community. And they were trying different applications and different conversation patterns. So one of them is group chat. So this is idea from Xiaoyun Zhang, who was builder of the .NET version of Flamel, right? He built a .NET version of Flamel, and when we asked him to try the Autogen, he was trying the group chat idea. Initially, he was not using the agentic design, the conversable agent interface we had in Autogen. He was doing it in a like different implementation. And then I looked at that and thought about like, can we support this pattern in without changing the current interface? Yeah, the key is without changing, right? So that's what I mentioned earlier. Is if this notion is really viable, this concept is really good, then it's supposed to be able to accommodate new use cases without fundamental change to it. So that's a good time to verify as a hypothesis. Yeah. So I basically looked at this and checked, okay, can we still use generate reply functionality to achieve that? So it turned out we can. So I iterated a few times, and eventually I implemented that in the Autogen library. So so I would say it's a joint effort. It started with an idea from a user with some initial exploration, and there was some, of course, there are some problems with the specific design, and then we iterated over it and eventually make it easily usable and easy to implement feature in the Autogen library. We were offering that in the initial Autogen library mainly as an example of like how you can build this very highly dynamic like conversational workflow. You just using the simple interface we provided. We really want to show that as an example, but it turned out to be a highly popular feature.
Yes.
And we have evolved a lot since then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you guys have done, I mean, all you do is create the agents like you normally do, and you just plug them into the group chat manager, and and you start the conversation, right? That's, I think you just said making it easy. Once you kind of learn the framework, just, just like anything, right? Once you learn the framework, it makes sense. Then you realize how much easier this is with the framework than doing it yourself. Like you're saying, I actually didn't realize how much a difficult problem that was. When you tell somebody like, is going from a 2 to 3 way is actually exponentially more difficult. It's like, why? It's just another agent. What's the problem?
Yeah.
But like you said, in a group chat, not every agent always has to respond to every agent. Like, it's not like a circle, right? You have to keep responding in a flow. It could, you could have different directions, and I can see now why that can be difficult. So thanks for explaining that.
Yeah.
I think, but like you said, that is probably one of the most important features when I started creating, like when I started using it, and then started kind of doing some tutorials on it. Like, people just love the group chat, right? Have all these agents, you just let it run, and then at some point you tell it when to terminate, and then this spits out your answer, right? That's an amazing feature, really. And I think that's why what you're saying, how difficult it is, why a lot of people don't really have that in their frame. I'm trying to think, everybody has a sequential, multiple agents talking one after another, but as far as having a group chat like that, besides, I know you guys are the first ones, and there might be some others that replicate something similar, but I don't know if it's as dynamic as just, it doesn't matter. You can just plug them as many agents as you want in, and it works, right? That's amazing. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah,
So
it's a similar story for other like chat patterns as well. There's nested chat, there's sequential chats.
yeah,
It's mostly from some particular application that's initially not using this pattern because it didn't exist in the library. But when we look at the implementation, we realized there's some common pattern we can abstract and make it much easier to implement similar applications.
yeah, the way you're saying the nested one, that I really like that, because you can just have some sequential chain, and then at each point there's a trigger that says, okay, come down to a separate group chat. They, say it's whatever it is, trying to summarize something that from a writer, but you have a group of summarizers specifically, and then it goes back up the sequential chain. I mean, I loved it whenever you guys came out with that and that feature. I love that. I think that's like I said before, I think it's underrated, that people should be using it more often. It's really powerful.
Yeah. When I think about it, that's actually the idea we had earlier than the group chat. So nested chat, I would say this is actually maybe the first feature, first kind of a really important like multi-agent conversation pattern we realized when we tried to extend from 2 to 3. But we just didn't provide this complete documentation about how you should do it, because at that time we realized there were multiple ways of implementing nested chat, and we didn't provide a single interface to do that. But we did provide a few examples, even in the technical report we wrote. One of them is mass problem solving, where we're using the two function call and tool call feature to implement that nested chat. And there we also had the conversational chess game and OptiGuide, which is a multi-agent coding application. They all use nested chat, but they use it in slightly different ways. So we didn't provide this one common interface. But we did know that this is the most general way for like implementing arbitrary complex multi-agent chat, and it can be used recursively to build multi-agent workflows in any complexity. And we did have verifications in all these different applications. And that was a good exercise too. Later, sometime we found, we can further provide a high-level interface for people to easily register in the nested chat way. Okay. So we add that feature later. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. Another question I want to have is, do you use AI agents in your daily life enough, or are you too busy creating them and developing agents that you don't? Just kind of curious. And then just kind of let people know maybe what IDE you use whenever you develop? You know, do you have multiple monitors? You
Yeah.
know, just kind of your day-to-day thing whenever you're coding.
Yeah. This is interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, my very first ambition was to create a self-improvement agent that I can use in my daily life. Like I can use it every day to help me build this agentic framework. So I want to hand over as much work to the AI as I
Yeah.
could. Uh, and uh, I would say that I haven't achieved that goal, right? So apparently I haven't achieved that goal. Changed my methodology after some while. So I changed my method to be let me create this fundamental framework so that others can potentially use the framework to achieve this goal. So because I realized it will be much maybe faster, more efficient if I can enable like thousands, 10,000 others to try that instead of me trying it
Yeah, I
alone.
got you.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
people are so creative, they have all sorts of great ideas, and because we don't know which path is the right way to go, maybe it's better to just let many people to explore that at the same time. So let me build the framework to enable that. So that's my approach. I changed to uh,
Well, thank you for
uh,
changing.
I'm happy to see it did enable people to kind of to try out that. Recently I also found like one startup called Zinli. They're not using this framework yet, but I think there's a chance this framework can help them. But they're making some good progress in terms of building this automated agents that can build entire software or web application from
Okay.
a simple prompt. Um, I plan to try it out actually, and maybe see whether I can have ideas to also improve it. Whenever I get time, I really want to participate in this. And
But time is
you
the
know,
problem.
yeah, time is a problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in terms of
Gotcha.
IDE, I mainly use VS Code and
Okay.
GitHub Code Space
Mm.
to make development. And I use GitHub Copilot to help me with coding. It's pretty good. I know Cursor's a very good tool. Also, I knew that much earlier this year before it got traction. Yeah,
Gotcha.
they only prevented me to use it this time. I don't have time now to learn it. But
Yeah.
I've talked to people working on the Cursor project. I have huge respect
Mm.
for them. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think once the one thing I like kind of like about it is because, you know, when you're building any framework, you know, you have to go through the parameters. It's just kind of a little bit, it's not like it's a pain, right? Or anything like that. But you want to set up the parameters. But what it can do if you if you create one agent, like say you create an assistant agent, but say like I want another assistant agent, or I want to use the RAG agent, so the retrieve agent, right? So say I want to do that. Well, it kind of remembers or can look at the either like I don't know if it looks at the doc strings, or it can look at the parameters inside the class of the retrieve user agent, and it kind of highlight all of them for you. You can just press tab; they're all there. So it kind of just I use that sometimes just to help me. Like, okay, I don't want to type it every time, you know. So that just press
Yeah.
tab and it does, and I can just modify it then whatever I need.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's helpful because it doesn't have the knowledge unless you somehow gave it the knowledge of these newer frameworks, but it can kind of be a little smart about it as you're coding it.
Yeah, by the way, I did use Autogen from time to time to help me with some tasks. Sometimes it's about finding information, sometimes it's about like generating figures in my paper. Yeah, so I do use it
Gotcha.
for this kind of stuff. And I know earlier we did something like help using that to help us to try the GitHub issues.
Okay.
Gagan Bansov, my former colleague, built a tool for Discord bot that can
Okay.
help the developers to find issues on GitHub or understand some PRs that haven't been taken care of. Yeah, so I've seen that
Gotcha.
power of that
Yeah.
even from these
That's
small tasks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think even if you're eliminating something like 50 that takes 15 minutes of your time every day, if you
Mm.
can bring it down to 15 seconds. I mean, that's a lot of time over a week and then over a month, right? It doesn't have to be this monumental. These agents don't have to do all these crazy tasks for you to improve your life. It can just do small things here and there. And that's such a big improvement, right? Like having them you can schedule all these agents every day to do something, like whatever it is, right? I think a lot of times people like forget, you don't have to build something so complex to improve your life. It can be something small, like reading your emails every morning at 6, and then sending you the key points or things the emails that you might need to look at, or that might need attention. They can be simple things for you. So thanks for explaining all that. I know we're over time. So I guess I'll just do like one last thing. If you just kind of wanted to, first off, thanks for, I'm going to cut this part out, but thanks for, I didn't actually realize that we were talking for so long. So I guess I'll just kind of ask you if you have any closing thoughts about, what you have maybe plans for Autogen. I know we kind of talked a lot about that, but just any closing thoughts for Autogen in general, your thoughts on AI agents in the future. Just, don't have to go into elaborate detail unless you want to. But I know we're over time. I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask you. Okay, so what are your closing just before we close up the interview, do you have any insights on the future of Autogen, like any other key concepts that you're trying to improve on, or anything with AI agents in general? Just any last thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. First of all, I want to appreciate the whole community for doing all the developments, contributions in code or in building tutorials, videos, like you have done. You have made a lot of high quality content on YouTube. And I know the community has deep appreciation of that. Also AI Jason and many others. They're so passionate, and they're building these videos by themselves. I'm learning new things every day from the developers and the content makers. That makes me believe the community effort is a very kind of important and very good way to make progress in the AI space. I think that's mainly because the advancement of AI technologies has made to a point where it enables every individual to implement their idea much more easily, and from impossible before now to very easy. Developers with little coding knowledge, or even non-developers, are getting the capability to try out different cognitive architectures they have in mind. I know we don't know the single ground truth about how the human intelligence works, but everyone has some certain understanding about themselves, and maybe have some reflection about how their own mind works, and they can now explore idea of try to implement these, and at least for certain tasks, they may find it more effective. So this community-driven effort, I think, has big power for understanding. I personally learned so much from these kind of efforts, and I believe that keeping this community effort going is very valuable. So I will continue kind of try to make that happen. Try to keep the community making progress. And in terms of Autogen itself, I think I'd like people who are participating in the community to together think about what's the future, what's the roadmap. I've certainly have ideas. For example, I have ideas like we can make, once we have a reasonably stable fundamental architecture of standard framework for building multi-agent application in large design space, we can then focus on helping one particular design point according to their requirements. That's very similar to the AutoML idea, to make it easy for people who don't want to explore themselves to get a quick and well-performing system out of the box.
Gotcha,
We already have a lot of progress and research in that direction. That's what makes me personally very, very excited about.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah,
that's
having something out of the box like that
yeah.
for, that, I'm excited for that. That'd be really cool to have in the future once, like you said, once you feel more comfortable about it. But
Mm.
just having that ready and then people can just, deploy it or whatever it is. That'd be awesome to have.
Yeah, we already have some preliminary feature like auto build and its
Hmm.
extension called Captain Agent. Um, but I definitely see this as only a beginning, and things will evolve a lot in the future. And I'm also very interested in extending the library to handle like more decentralized and distributed agent platforms to make it easy to like register new agent and discover other agents in the platform and work asynchronously. That type of extension. And like I mentioned, many other features that may help with production use cases, make it easier to deploy and so on. I think these are all important developments and roadmaps ahead for Autogen. But again, these are like mainly inspired by the community, by the users, by the contributors, by the needs, and I think it's very important to take their feedback and decide the roadmap together.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing everything. It was great, like finally meeting you and talking to you in person. Um, I was kind of on Discord, and I've always like I know that everybody's busy. I know you, especially you were busy. But I'm happy I reached out and I finally able to connect. And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people that follow me, they're happy to meet you and just kind of hear from you. I mean, the creator of, in my opinion, the most stable and robust AI agent framework. Their AI agentic framework. I love it, and yeah, everybody. When I created the course on it, everybody loved the framework because they were able to get things to work. Right? If you have a hard time getting something working, then you can maybe people get frustrated. And that can happen when you have some of these frameworks that have so much dependencies. And like I said, like I think yours is just the most stable. That can really open doors for everybody to actually try out agents, right? The whole idea is to people to try this out. So I just want to again say thank you for creating this framework. We all appreciate it.
I really
We
appreciate
all
the
do.
feedback like this. I hear a lot of similar comments and feedback. These are super valuable for me to understand the benefit from users' point of view, and what's important to keep. I recently also met some founders from company called Terrascope AI. They are
Mm.
building agents for the construction industry. That's a new
Oh,
industry.
wow.
I learned about. Yeah, this is
Oh,
amazing. I
wow.
have seen use cases in pretty much every industry vertical, and I keep learning about new application and new use cases.
Wow.
And
That's
they mentioned
awesome.
some benefit about like we just said. They said this is a gold standard framework that enable them to explore uh, many different designs, multi-agent designs, and enable them to uh, figure out the right solution much more quickly. Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah.
this
It's awesome to
feedback.
hear.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you again. It's so nice to meeting you. And
yeah,
thanks for your time and talking to us about your
yeah,
history and Autogen and everything in between.
yeah.
So thank you again.
Thanks so much.
It
Yeah,
was
thank
awesome
you.
meeting
Yeah,
you.
it was a very it was a very fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.